I hope you know, I really do love to craft and develop full sermons and stand in this room with you, but only when I'm with you. It feels more natural right now to sit and chat, since that's what we get to do today. And I'll start with this. When I was a new children's minister, I read up a lot on the job to try to catch myself up. And one of the books I read told me that I should never craft a lesson for children around an abstract idea, because the children just wouldn't get it. This book, written by quite an expert, said that children, being more black and white, concrete thinkers, just couldn't take in abstract ideas. Like, for instance, the book said, I could start and end a Bible story with a yes or no moral. Say, do this and be like this person. Don't do that and don't be like that person. But I shouldn't ask children to identify with both the younger brother and the older brother in the prodigal son story, because that was just bound to be too confusing for young brains. Developmentally, they would not be ready. Children wouldn't have the ability to hold multiple truths at once. The conventional wisdom was, we got to feed them slowly, bite by bite, truth by truth, emotionally, socially, spiritually, only one truth at a time. And it didn't really matter that first truth might be incomplete. And it was the best advice, even if that first truth would later turn out to be a bit misleading. Well, to some degree, I still think it's wisdom. I don't think it was wrong, and I think the book still has merit. Because young children really do tend to think concretely, either or thinking. And young children really do have developmental limits. But also, young children, they grow really, really fast, and they change. And I think that advice I got first really sells short just how complex and nuanced even a very young human brain is. What capacity our brains have to develop abstract thinking through imagination and conversation and real life experience. I think what I was taught first ignores the constant work children are doing just to exist in the environment we've created for children. Because, by the way, abstract thinking is required to use things like the alphabet, to add and subtract quantities. Finally, I think the advice I started with, to take out any confusion, keep it simple, keep it clear and black and white, well, that just doesn't help create the adult thinkers we need in this life, in this place, to meet the world we're in. So maybe people do inherently start out in concrete either or thinking. But from their very beginning, as we build social attachments, I think we human people are also wired for both and thinking. I read something this week about babies and caregivers that seems to prove this point. It comes from an early in the field child psychologist named Melanie Klein. She was prominent in the last century. And she said, in essence, that very young children learn to hold conflicting emotions at the same time. They don't start out with that ability, but they learn it. They begin life unable to feel two opposing things. And that kind of tracks if you know newborn babies. The inability to feel two conflicting things leads to this initial split in human thinking. But the split gets navigated by any human baby growing up in any kind of supportive, caring, emotionally healthy environment. So here's how the initial split theory goes, according to Klein. When a baby gets hungry and an adult immediately feeds that baby, the baby feels peace and security and a rush of all good emotions wrapped around the idea of that adult. When a baby is hungry and an adult does not feed them, I mean, maybe not at all, or maybe just not fast enough, the baby experiences great frustration and dysregulation. Yeah, I think we've seen that. Because this baby's body suddenly feels no peace and their adult suddenly feels all bad. The opposite of all the good emotions they just held. But because biologically, babies need adults, they are wired not to turn on us just because we make them real mad. And that wiring leads babies to this managed split that happens in very young brains. Klein said, young children first make the meaning, if something goes wrong and my parent can't be bad, I must be bad. But then if they're given what they need in life, children soon develop the capacity of holding a different thought process that allows for more. Through the natural course of development, children learn to manage and live with opposite feelings. So suddenly parents get to be both good and bad. They can love us and they can hate us. And children get to be good and bad. They can think of themselves as good and bad. And this amazingly just happens naturally. Over much time and many positive interactions, definitely. But this is how it's designed to happen. In just average circumstances, leaving aside any neglect or abuse. We learn quite early on how to develop the capacity for nuanced feelings, for holding tension and sometimes discomfort without immediately shifting into judgment and blame, not for ourselves or for other people. Healthy attachment and development actually leads people into both and thinking. That's the psychology of it anyway. And this idea of being both and thinkers is what we're about to sit with for several weeks worth of messages. I've titled this new series, Becoming Both and People in an All or Nothing World. Because it really does feel like the stakes are high all the time now. It really does seem that if you advocate for one thing, you're automatically put in a camp of that thing set up against something else. That you can't love both. If you say, look at this, you're automatically judging that. And I don't think that Jesus was that way. I'm pretty confident Jesus models for us a different way. I'm pretty confident that Christianity calls us to a different way. And I'm pretty sure that the complicated, divided, hurt, and hurting world we're planted in won't grow or heal itself with any more either or thinking. The kind that's not even good for babies. Instead, here's what I see. I see that Jesus is both human and divine. Jesus is both powerful and humble. Jesus is at once a kingdom already come and a reality not yet. And then what about us? Well, I think we, as Jesus followers, have to acknowledge that we are both faithful and doubting, both unified and divergent, both private and social, both in this world and not of this world. All of these things at the same time. We live in a place that's both good and fallen, where neighbors can instantly devolve into tribes. But the place that we are, the place that we claim and love and live, is not an all or nothing proposition. I think what we already are and can bring to this world is both and.